I used to think that gaming news channels with 4.7 million subscribers would have at least a little bit of integrity with their content. But I guess I was wrong. Gameranx is a channel with 4.7 million subscribers, and they generally make pretty good content. Factual things, gaming news, top 10 lists, upcoming games, all that kind of stuff. And you would think that with that many followers and that big of a reach, you would have a little bit of integrity with your content. Or, alternatively, you can just pander to a large section of it for views. 10 console gaming myths debunked. Gameranx uploaded this video on October 14th of 2018, and it was not well received. You know a video is going to be interesting when the pinned comment starts with, "and before anyone cries." Well, maybe people wouldn't be crying if you did your research. This video just sums up my biggest problem with a lot of bigger gaming news channels and gaming info channels pandering to console audiences and just not doing any kind of research because that would be too hard. So let's get started, shall we?
There's quite a lot of stereotypes around console gaming. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Gameranx, 10 console gaming myths debunked.
You know something I've noticed? It seems that, especially on the internet and in the gaming world, if there's an opinion or something that you don't like, it's really common for people to just call them myths and debunk them. I can't be the only one who's noticed this.
Number 10, consoles don't get the equivalent of Steam sales.
This is true. Consoles do not get the equivalent of Steam sales. Steam is a free service. Anyone can put their games on Steam within reason. And Steam gives developers much better control over what happens there. They don't have to sell their games to Microsoft and to Sony or to Nintendo in order to have their games on the platform. You just put your game on Steam. Valve takes a cut of it for every sale. You control when your game goes on sale, how much it goes on sale for, and it goes from there. And it's all completely free to the player.
But the truth is, if you need to find a console game cheap, there are absolutely Steam-like sales, sometimes with extreme discounts.
Okay, this is true to an extent.
Now, does it happen as often as Steam sales? That's probably a little bit more grounded of a question to ask, but they do happen.
So you started this segment by saying it's a myth that consoles don't have Steam-level sales, and then you admit consoles don't have Steam-level sales. This video is off to a great start.
And sure, like I said, it doesn't necessarily happen as often, but to outright say that these things don't happen on consoles is wrong.
Yeah, nobody says that. That's why nobody says that. Nobody says there are no console game sales. However, people do say there are not nearly as many console sales as PC sales. PC games come from a variety of different sources. There's not just one store dictating the price of everything like there is on PlayStation or Nintendo or Microsoft or Xbox. You have Steam, you have Origin, you have Battle.net, you have G2A, you have GOG, you have Humble Bundle, you have a whole bunch of different sources, and then you have physical copies you can get on Amazon or eBay or Best Buy or anywhere. If you want to get a game digitally for your console, you go to the console store. There is one price. The PC is an open marketplace which allows these sales to happen and allows a lot of the games to exist in the first place.
It's not even really a matter of keeping your eyes open either, because Steam sales are so frequent. It's just a matter of more retail-like frequency on the consoles.
More retail-like frequency? But... okay.
Number 9, the myth that controllers just automatically suck. 'Cause mouse and keyboard, guys.
Mocking the opposition. That's always a good look.
Like, I am not going to sit here and tell you that for a first-person shooter, the majority of people can at least eventually do better with a mouse and keyboard. That doesn't stop people from using controllers like crazy on Steam. According to data Valve released, there are millions upon millions of Steam users that are specifically using console controllers on Steam.
Yeah, because we have an option. You can't even really compare these things. You can't compare how many people are using a controller on PC to how many people are using mouse and keyboard on a console. Because that's hardly even an option. I know it's possible, but how many people are really doing it? The PC allows you to control your games with pretty much anything. The console is very closed in this regard. The console is closed in a lot of ways, but input devices especially so. How is this even a myth that needs to be talked about?
So many that it is impossible to ignore the idea that for a lot of people, a controller is just a more fun way to play. I realize that there are a lot of people that play games for competitive reasons or to even become a professional, and I understand why that type of person wouldn't like a controller. But keeping in mind that the majority of all of the rest of us play games for fun, it makes sense that if we think something is more fun, we're gonna use it. A lot of people happen to think controllers are more fun.
Yeah, that's why nobody ignores it. You're bringing up points that I've literally never heard in my life. I've been playing video games since I was like 5 years old. I've literally never heard this. For me, and for a lot of people, the mouse and keyboard is more fun. I have plenty of controllers at my house. I don't use them for my PC games. I think I use a controller for one game, and that's Smash. Everything else I play on mouse and keyboard because it's just more fun. It's not a myth that people think the controller is more fun. Yeah, people are gonna have more fun with different things. A lot of people happen to find mouse and keyboard more fun.
It is all a matter of personal taste.
So why did you bring it up?
And just using controllers on a game console doesn't automatically make game consoles or controllers bad. Also, Microsoft is working on mouse and keyboard support for their consoles, so it's fair to assume that Sony will probably follow with that.
Sony introducing new features for their players, it's not something that happens very much.
Because now they're letting their players play Fortnite with other players, and supposedly their experience is superior. That's why they didn't let them in the first place.
This video is so obviously agenda that you don't even realize you're contradicting yourself. You just said that it's all personal preference, but then you said the experience on mouse and keyboard is superior. So which one is it?
Number 8, porting a game to consoles is easy.
Is this something that people say? I've never heard anyone say this.
This, of course, makes the huge mistake of assuming that programming is easy. Programming is not easy. Programming is a skill that takes many years to develop. For instance, Skyrim was notoriously weird on the PlayStation 3. It didn't run well, and doing certain things interacted in a bad way with how the PlayStation 3 handled memory. They had to do a lot of stuff to fix that, and it was specific to the PlayStation 3.
Yeah, that's because the consoles have locked hardware, and it's often extremely underpowered to what they're trying to do with the games. This shouldn't be news to anyone.
I mean, if we want to talk about how hard it is to port something, we can't not mention Arkham Knight, which ran really good on consoles, but like ass on the computer.
Okay, I have a lot of things to say about this. First of all, here comes the obligatory console fanboy, Arkham Knight on PC argument. Literally look at any pro-console anti-PC video and they'll say something about Arkham Knight. But also, you need to define what you think running well is, because by the standards of pretty much any PC gamer and a lot of console gamers, Arkham Knight did not run well on consoles. But that's what happens when you play on underpowered hardware for so long. Your standards just get lower. Arkham Knight ran at 900p on the Xbox One and 1080p on the PS4, and both versions never got higher than 30 FPS. In fact, both versions, according to testing done by Digital Foundry, neither version was even locked at 30 FPS. They would both drop below 30. Because this is the 8th generation of consoles, and we still have sub 1080p 30 FPS gameplay somehow. Yeah, tell me more about how great the game ran on consoles. Meanwhile, the PC version of Arkham Knight runs excellently now that it's been patched. And it is by far the superior version of the game. But go off about how bad Arkham Knight was on PC and how great it was on console.
We've talked about how and why, and it has as much to do with the budget and what the staff is allowed to do as it does hardware, but a port is a port is a port and is always going to have its own unique difficulties, console or PC.
There are so many developers literally saying that developing for console is bad, and that console hardware is holding back their capabilities as developers.
Number 7, the myth that all console players are kids. Oh, what?
Another thing I've literally never heard.
Sorry, but I've got a Nintendo Switch, and I play it more than most kids do. And I know that I am not vaguely special for this. In fact, I'm probably on the lower end of the spectrum of the adults playing Switch timescale. The Nintendo Switch has frankly given us a way to play full-on, real-ass video games anytime and anywhere, whether it be on the train or in bed. And it's obviously not just the Switch. Adults actually have lives outside of work and their kids. Adults have interests that can range from movies to music to video games? What a shock.
Yeah, again, I've never heard anyone argue with those things. It seems like you just needed another quote-unquote myth to fit the 10 in the title.
Number 6, the idea that there's way less or even no social communities like on PC gaming.
Okay, I'm convinced you don't actually know what a myth is.
Just because there's communities built into every Steam page doesn't mean Steam is the only place that communities exist. In fact, just saying that should sound pretty absurd automatically.
I'm also convinced you've never actually played on PC before. Because we're 4.5 minutes into this video, into his video, and you are yet to mention any service on the PC other than Steam. The big one. Kinda makes me question how much you actually know about this.
Reddit itself is filled with gaming communities, many of which are very console specific. Many are game specific, and those games might be exclusive to a console. Frankly, this one is debunkable by Google search, and yet it persists pretty hard. Why is that?
I'm honestly a little insulted you even said the word Google in this video.
Number 5, you can't or shouldn't play MMOs on a console, which, if you've ever played Final Fantasy: A Realm Reborn, which didn't start off great, but was a realm that got reborn, it turns out it's not only possible, but pretty good to play MMOs on console.
Well, the MMO market on consoles just isn't really that big, and that has to do with the user base. Generally speaking, people who play on consoles are more casual, and more hardcore players are on the PC. Again, that's just generally speaking. So naturally, an MMO, a more hardcore type of game, is going to gravitate to the PC. And also, games like MMOs that need to be updated frequently, that often have subscriptions, they need to be on the PC for constant updates, so they don't have to push their updates through a big corporation that has to approve them, but also so they can have better control of the servers, so they can have better control of the subscription fees, and also the other thing is that you're just not realizing here is that playing online on the PC is free. One of the main reasons there's no MMOs on the consoles is because people don't want to pay for online and pay for their subscription fees to an MMO. If you're not paying for your online, then yeah, you're more likely to drop a little bit of a subscription fee. There have been plenty of MMOs on console, but there's way more on PC. It's just the nature of the platforms.
At least when console conventions are actually looked at as part of the equation. If you have a bunch of endlessly complicated menus on an MMO, it's not going to work that great on a controller. But if it's optimized for a controller, in theory, you could have a lot of very interesting stuff. This, of course, brings up the debate of controller versus mouse and keyboard, which I think we've already said enough about. It's just different things.
Okay, you say it's just different things, but you literally also just said that they aren't different, but they can be designed for the controller, but they can't. This video is really dumb. I don't like this.
And MMOs on console are in some ways a little bit different, but a lot of them are really good and definitely worth checking out. Number 4, the idea that paying for online gaming is stupid.
I am actually so excited to hear how you debunk this.
Sure, you don't pay for online gaming on PC, but there's also no such thing as Xbox Game Pass on PC. I mean, unless you get the PC version of Xbox Game Pass, but that costs money there too.
But we don't pay for Xbox Live. Xbox Game Pass costs money on top of Xbox Live, which is $60 a year. For PC, it's just the fee. Also, on PC, shocker, we aren't limited to just the games in a pass. A lot of console gamers seem to think that the game variety on PC is the same as the multiplats on console with a handful of exclusives, but the infrastructure of PC gaming is completely different than consoles. Yes, there are multiplats, but there are so many more exclusives on the PC, and just so many more games on the PC than console. Most PC gamers don't care about things like Xbox Game Pass. If we like the games that are in the pass, we'll buy them. But we don't want to pay money up front for maybe some games that we like. That's why it's so silly when I hear people talk about, look, you get these free games with Xbox Live. You get these free games with PlayStation Plus. Yeah, I hope you like them, because you don't get to choose. You don't choose what games you want. This isn't a defense of the console.
PlayStation Plus and Xbox Game Pass are both incredible value deals, and it's just not a thing that we get in the free package, so to speak.
Free, meaning $60?
Add that to the fact that we're getting closer and closer to an on-demand game service that's actually good, and it starts to make more and more sense why you might pay for a service like that. Now,
I have yet to see a single thing that you have said that actually makes me want to pay for one of these services. Everything on Xbox Live Gold or PlayStation Plus, every single thing they have to offer, the PC has for free, and often better and free.
Now, that's not to say that one is objectively better than the other, but there are pros and cons to everything in life. Number 3, all console gamers are quote-unquote
filthy casuals.
There are a lot of people that complain about the less competitive nature of games that aren't Dota, which, you know, whatever. So you like a game more than another game. Good for you.
Mocking the opposition again. It's a good look.
It's not even competition that makes gaming hardcore. Somebody could play Dark Souls alone forever. That is hardcore. It's a bit weird, but it's hardcore. It's because certain people can only measure their worth in comparison to other people, and that's not healthy.
Oh, but you know what is healthy is lying to 4.7 million people about a hobby that you don't like for some reason, but you like this other thing for some reason. Subscribe to Gameranx. That's healthy.
Like, I think competition is fun. Why not have it in games? Why not make it hardcore competition? But pretending that competition itself, or even just one game that happens to be on PC over some of the games on console, is what makes things hardcore? I don't know. And the thing is, it's not just Dota and it's not just PC. It's often exclusives that generate this kind of elitism. Number 2, the idea.
Oh, but he's not gonna talk about console elitism. He's not gonna talk about how much console players like to brag about their exclusives. No, that's not gonna, that wouldn't fit the narrative. Why would we talk about that? We're gonna go on this big tirade about how lame it is that PC gamers like their exclusives, and then we're gonna give half a sentence to, there might be some elitism on the other side, guys, but don't worry about it. Gameranx.
Number 2, the idea that consoles are holding back gaming.
How the fuck is this a myth? Holy hell, did you research at all?
Either in graphics or in general. I can't even tell you how many times I've seen people complain about the idea that because console hardware is technically inferior, that games have to be made for them, and that being they're made on technically inferior hardware, they're worse for whatever reason, either graphically or for some other reason.
I wonder why they think that. Yes, fucking mystery, dude. I don't know.
Like, consoles are way too mainstream for me, man.
I'm not even gonna say anything about the mocking this time. Except I will. Mocking the opposition. three-piece combo.
And it's not an irrational accusation by any means, but it doesn't really think about the idea that because money is made off of console games, that games get made at all. Gaming itself is an industry that doesn't care about platforms, it cares about money.
The gaming industry doesn't care about platforms? Really? Then why do I see all these things about exclusives? Why do I see all these things about how great it is, how that Nintendo has all these exclusives and Sony has all these exclusives? Why are there all these closed platforms then, if the industry doesn't care about exclusives? You're just, God, you are so lost in this conversation.
And if you like franchises to grow and get bigger, I'm not saying you have to have consoles to do that, but in terms of AAA gaming, where companies are trying to reach the largest audience possible, it allows them to actually put more money aside to make the game in the first place. There is more potential for return, without question, by simply associating a console with it. I would argue that if game consoles didn't exist, then computers would end up taking more console-like traits than you probably think they would.
Okay, again, you're completely forgetting that the PC is not owned by one company. The Xbox is owned by Microsoft. The PlayStation is owned by Sony. They dictate what goes on these platforms and what happens on these platforms. The PC is not owned by anyone. That's why it's an open platform. And if consoles did not exist, the PC would not adopt console properties because no one owns the PC. Kind of weird that I have to explain this to a fucking gaming channel with 4.7 million subscribers.
There's a certain type of customer that doesn't want to play games on their Windows PC, and they happen to be the majority of customers.
Actually, globally, the console is not the majority of gaming, but, you know, go off, I guess.
They just want to press a button and have the game happen. And finally, number one, all console games have bad frame rates.
Excuse me?
None of them run at 60 frames per second, and that's all that matters. Well, have you played Doom? Have you played Doom on console?
Yeah, and it's worse than it is on PC.
Have you played, Doom on console? Or maybe the Wolfenstein games? You played those?
Yeah, I played them on PC, and then I played them on console, and they were bad. True story, actually. I played Wolfenstein The New Order on PC. Absolutely loved it. It's one of my favorite games of all time. Then I got Wolfenstein 2 on the Xbox One. That was the last game I ever bought on my Xbox One. True story. I have not bought a game on my Xbox One since Wolfenstein 2 because it was so much worse. Also, do you really want to have this conversation about what platform Wolfenstein plays better on? I really don't think that's a conversation you want to have.
There's actually a lot of games that do it, but those are pretty good examples, aren't they?
You gave 2 examples of games that run at 60 FPS on consoles. Yay?
Because they're some of the best games of the last decade.
Wolfenstein 2 is not one of the best games of the last decade, but alright.
Sure, their graphics are a little better on PC. I'm not going to sit here and say otherwise, but...
A little better? A little better. Wolfenstein and Doom look a little better on PC. You are out of your... Oh my... You don't know anything. Who hired you? Who wrote this video?
This isn't even actually a good reason. If they only played at 30 frames per second, who cares? How does that affect you?
Because it looks bad. You do not play as well at 30 FPS. There is more input lag. The game is less smooth. You play worse at 30 FPS than you do at higher frame rates. This is just facts. I'm at the point where I don't even feel like I should keep talking about this video. It's so obviously opinionated and just completely not acknowledging what actually happens.
But they don't. They play 60 frames per second in 1080p. So,
Wait, I need to hear that part again.
But they don't. They play 60 frames per second in 1080p. So,
I really, really hope you're not telling me that console games all run at 1080p 60 frames per second. I really hope that's not what you're telling me. Now, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and assume that this statement was made just about Doom and Wolfenstein 2 that those games run at 1080p 60 on consoles. Wolfenstein 2 ran at 1080p on the PS4, and it ran at 810p on the Xbox One. 810p. And neither console ran a locked 60 frames per second. They both had regular dips below 60. Even the higher end consoles, like the PS4 Pro, even they couldn't keep a locked 60 frames with Wolfenstein 2. And as for Doom, again, it ran at 1080p on the PS4 and sub 1080p on the Xbox One. And both consoles had regular dips below 60 FPS. So I don't know what you're trying to say here. You have two games that sometimes ran at what you said they ran at. Meanwhile, I can play both of these games at max settings on my PC at way more than 60 FPS with a graphics card that only cost me a couple $100. So...
what are some console myths you can debunk? Leave us a comment, let us know what you think.
And before anyone cries, also, remember these are Falcon's opinions. Well, Falcon's opinions are garbage and they're built off lies that are meant to pander to a certain audience. And Gameranx, for a channel of your size, you should honestly be ashamed that this video has remained up for so long. Or even went up in the first place. Seriously, what the hell happened with this? The PC is an open market. It has far more power, far more potential than the consoles. These are just facts. Don't pander to a certain audience just for views. Don't be dishonest to people just for some clicks. You're better than that. With 4.7 million subscribers, you better be better than that. Anyway, that's all I have to say on the matter. Feel free to get discussion going down below, and feel free to follow me on Twitter at JoeFromSeattle1 and Twitch at twitch.tv/JoeFromSeattle. At the time that you're watching this video, I should be live, actually. I go live every single day now at noon Pacific time. That's my new schedule, and I'm trying to stick to it, trying to increase the amount of time that I'm streaming and the amount of hours that I'm live at a time. From now on, I'm going to be going live every day at noon Pacific and try to go until at least 8 o'clock. But that's all I have to say on the matter. Remember, don't be dishonest to people just for the sake of your own opinions. And don't base your opinions on nothing. Base your opinions on the facts. Don't ignore facts because you want to believe a certain way. Face the facts and then make your opinions. It's really not that hard.